Good morning, Facebook and YouTube followers of AARP North Dakota. It's Friday. It is earlier than we normally come to you for all things advocacy, but that's with good reason. We'll get to that in a second. State Director Josh Askvig here with you. With me, as always, is Janelle Moos. Janelle, good to see you. What did we do this week?
Well, good morning, Josh. Hey, everybody. Good to see you on this beautiful Friday morning. You know, this week was a very busy week at the Capitol. Really, every issue that has been important to, us and AARP members was up, including prescription drugs, talking to the Department of Human Services budget for, food assistance and utility assistance. Really, just a busy week, but I think we're making some good progress.
I agree and appreciate it. And the reason we started early today, for those of you who are wondering, it's not even 11:30 and we're on, is because we had the opportunity to get our guest with us. Our guest today is Representative Robin Weiss, who chairs the House Human Services Committee. Representative Weiss, we're so grateful we could have you on today. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me, I think.
Well, Representative Weiss, for those of you who don't know, as I said, chairs the House Human Services Committee, which has two of our prescription drug bills. And I'm going to let Janelle talk to you a little bit about that. So.
Good morning, Representative Weiss. Again, thanks for joining us. You know, as we talked about just a few minutes ago, your committee, your House Human Services Committee, heard two bills related to prescription drugs earlier this week. So Senate Bill 2212, which is the study resolution, and then Senate Bill 2209, which would allow North Dakota to partner with another state to implement a wholesale prescription drug importation program from Canada. So, what did you hear during both of those hearings earlier this week?
Well, one, there's been attempts, I think, going back 20 years that the feds basically said we could kind of get into this business, so to speak, though it hasn't occurred yet with any state, including North Dakota. But certainly I think we heard that, there's in some cases huge price disparities between drugs in Canada versus the same drug in the U.S., and particularly North Dakota. The bills dealt with one, trying to study this issue. Can we go forward? Is there a way to do this? And of course, the other bill basically just said we can do it if we go through the right procedure. There was certainly concerns, particularly from the country of Canada, stating they were worried about too many of their drugs maybe coming down to North Dakota, and so that their citizens would not be able to receive the drugs they needed. So certainly I think the concern that's out there was well heard, as far as we have issues with the price of drugs, particularly certain ones that are going up in prices dramatically, which doesn't always seem to even make sense in some cases.
I think that's an important point. And, you have heard a lot from your constituents this legislative session so far, and I know a number of your colleagues have too. What makes a difference to you as the chairman of Human Services or as a legislator, for constituents that are listening? What makes a difference in terms of what you want to hear from them that would potentially change your mind on one of these bills or encourage you? Are there things that you look for or listen for?
Well, to me, there's two avenues that I think that legislators respond to, I guess, would be the best. The first one is you and Josh. It's your job to come to us and relay the general position of, say, your organization. And so, you're doing your part. And I think that's important because, one, you can answer the questions and the issues that have caused you, for example, say, to get involved in the prescription drug pricing as the example we're using. So that's the first step, because that's who we look to for the information from your organization, what you're representing. The second that I think is effective is from hearing from constituents. We want to hear from the constituents, first of all, in our own district. We get hundreds of emails a day, hundreds of them. And we all treat them differently or deal with them differently. But I think for the most part, we don't have time to, frankly, even really read the emails from people across the state. But if we get emails from our constituents, and they need to be personal emails, they don't have to, understand all the details of the bill or get into this and that. But when we are, I get an email from, grandma and grandpa from wherever saying, we're on a fixed income, our drug bill is $800 a month or whatever it might be, and is there something you can do to help us out? Those types of emails resonate. But getting the exact same email through a listserv somewhere that just says, support, say, Senate Bill 2209 or whatever, doesn't really have much effect, because we get hundreds of those on every bill just ongoing. But when we hear personal examples of why a particular bill could make a difference, I think that is important, and most legislators will respond. Again, in the end, we still may disagree, that this bill will either fix the problem or is the right process or whatever, but I think almost all legislators pay attention and respond to those type of emails or letters or phone calls, whatever it may be. But the personal context, I think, is important.
I think that is what we've been encouraging our members, and I think hearing it from you, reiterates the importance of, stories make a difference. And like you said, they don't have to understand the details of the bill, but knowing that you're doing good work on behalf of your constituents and letting them know that, this issue is important. And I think prescription drugs is the #1 issue and the #1 story we hear every day. And I know you too, you've heard a lot from that. So I think your feedback is really appreciated, and I know we'll share that with our members. So,
well, there's certainly no question we get a lot of comments on that, and it is. I mean, it's in many cases, especially because technology has allowed drugs to fix an awful lot of problems that in the past we couldn't deal with. I mean, we didn't have answers for. Now we do, but often those answers are extremely expensive. And how do we deal with them? So,
Representative Weiss, thank you again for taking the time and being with us. I have one last question for you. Kind of, Janelle and I know this, and we can explain it, but can you kind of just outline what the process is? You had the hearing this week, kind of what the process is for both of those bills, and quite frankly, all bills you have in your committee, and kind of where this will head and how you'll handle that.
Okay. Well, as you pointed out, we've had the hearings on them. The committee will take them up here, next week, most likely, but certainly within the next couple of weeks, we will discuss, debate them. If there's, proposals for amendments, whatever, we'll look at that. Assuming they pass this, the House, and they're amended, then potentially they then could end up in a conference committee where the Senate and the House will have to agree on the changes that we made to the Senate bill. And likewise, we sent a drug prescription bill over to the Senate earlier on. They may amend it, and then we'll have to work out those differences and agreements. So, there's certainly, for example, there's certainly opportunity for those that are interested to email their legislators and encourage them to support either one of the bills. Some committees run a little different, but generally I've always liked we have the hearing to give people a chance to digest the bill, to see what it says, to get in further input, whether it's from you, the lobbyist, or from, constituents within their district to weigh in yet. And then we'll make that final decision, and then it'll go to the floor and be voted on by the whole floor. If it passes, then assume the governor will sign it.
Sure. So, well, thank you again, Representative Weiss. We really appreciate you taking the time, and glad we could get you in today to visit, and appreciate the work your committee is doing on prescription drugs and a number of other issues important to older North Dakotans too. I'm certain Tuesday will not be the last time that we be in front of your committee.
I would guess that's correct.
Representative Robin Weiss,
more yet before it's over.
Yeah, absolutely. So Representative Robin Weiss represents District 14 and chairs the House Human Services Committee. Thanks for being with us, Representative, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janelle, thank you for your work in working with Representative Weiss to get him on. And we had some very good points there about how folks can reach out to the representatives and the importance of those personal emails and stories. So he had a great pivot in terms of, it sounds like they're going to start working on these bills next week. And so let's talk about next week. What's coming up next week? What are we going to be watching and working on, and what can folks do?
It is, again, we have 4 bills yet and on prescription drugs, and one of ours is up again next week, and it's House Bill 1032, which is the transparency bill. And as many of you know, the transparency bill is really the building block that will help, all of our other efforts related to helping lower the cost of medicine. And so that will be in Senate Human Services next Tuesday. And again, what it will do is just shed a light on what goes into the pricing of prescription drugs, and hopefully allows the state to be more aware of what goes into those prices. And then you as a consumer can have conversations if you anticipate your drug going up by X number, by a dollar amount, that you can have a good conversation with your provider to look at other options if they are available. So,
excellent. And if folks want to take action this week, what do you recommend they do?
If you have a member, if one of your legislators is sitting on the House Human Services Committee or on the Senate Human Services Committee, as Representative Robin Weiss said, share your personal story. Reach out to them with a quick email, maybe a handwritten note. Let them know why this is an important issue to you, and let them know that that's important for them to work with us and work with others to look at real good solutions that'll help put pressure on the cost of drugs. So.
Absolutely. Janelle, another great week, another good all things advocacy, and appreciated Representative Weiss's comments. And I hope you heard, because I certainly heard it, and those of you watching, I hope you heard the importance of you reaching out and talking to your legislators in your district. Janelle and I can do a lot, but it's really that conversation that you have directly with your legislators that is so helpful, not only for us, but also to them as legislators. Janelle, anything else before we get out of here for the weekend?
No, just look for some more detailed updates later today, but please keep reaching out to your legislators. They love hearing from you, and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, all, and this has been another All Things Advocacy.